Hi and welcome to my channel once again. My name is Oluoma Martins, and today I will be sharing about how I passed my professional exam this year, the Certified Business Analysis Professional Exam, CBAP. Like I said, I went from nervous to success, and I want to just take you through that journey very briefly. First off, for those who know me anyway, I've had over 15, 16 years experience. I started out my career as a business analyst long before the name got the buzzword it has today. I started as a business analyst. I grew through the ranks and became project manager and then became HR professional and all of that. Now, the danger with having all that extensive experience is that when you then see this exam and it feels like, oh, it's so easy. I've been doing this thing. I've been doing it. So it shouldn't be difficult. Then you fall into the first trap, almost like overconfidence. Now, the second trap that I fell into was this. I had paid for a course, the business analysis school. I paid for a course to prepare me for the exam. I did that course. I think I finished that course like early this year, maybe perhaps January or maybe even December of 2024. I did that course, and normally I should have written the exam right away, but I didn't. That was the second mistake. So fast forward to September 2025. I was doing my end of quarter review, and I realized there was this goal that I had set for 2025 that I was yet to achieve. I'm like, what? The year is about to end. What's going to happen? And I determined, I said, look, I'm going to write this exam. And I said it right there. I said, my review happened on the 30th of September. So between 30th of September and October the 1st, I said, I'm going to write my exam in November. I didn't fix a date. But in my head, I said, middle of November. Okay. So what did I have to do? Of course, first I had to apply for the exam, get approved to take the exam, and then start to prepare to write it. Being that I have a full-time job and I also have businesses on the side, I knew some things had to give. My life, my schedule is already so busy. If I wanted to achieve this in November, some things had to give. And so I said, no more new clients. It's interesting that the week I said no more new clients, I just started having inquiries. Inquiries left, right, and center. Inquiries left, right. I'm like, no, I will stay focused. November, I'm writing CBAP and I'm passing it. So, of course, October, quite honestly, I had a draft study plan. I'm like, okay, every evening after work, I'm going to put in 2 hours. Every evening, 2 hours. But different things happened. I cannot even lie. Different things happened. So I did not stick to that plan. A test I should have done and finished in 2 days or 3 days. That test took me a whole week to do. Bottom line, things were just slow, and so I did not follow that study plan. But then by 3rd week in October, I'm like, girl, November is around the corner. Okay, so let's apply. So I applied for the exam, and I got approved. So I could now fix a date to write the exam. Now, the day I checked my email and saw that I had been approved to write the exam, I was like, whoa, pressure unleashed. But then I said, okay, we can do this. So I went back to that study plan and I revisited it and, made some changes. And I started to work again. As a business analyst that I am, I start everything with a current state assessment. So I assessed myself to see where I was, realizing that it's been a long time since I did this, my, training program, and I haven't exactly done direct BA work, in my current role. So I assessed myself. How did I assess myself? I took a mock test. I did a test from Adaptive, and I scored like 35 over 50. There were 50 questions. It wasn't time. I didn't time myself, any of that. But I scored 35 over 50. So I was like, okay, I was feeling very good. I said, okay, that's fine. The next thing was then to do the mock exam, because I felt that was more comprehensive. I did that mock exam, and that was what I scored. I'm like, what? This is borderline. Borderline. How am I supposed to get ready in November? Mind you, this is the final week in October. I saw where the gaps were. I saw the areas where I needed to focus on. And so I decided to go back to the BABOK. Now, if you're a BA, you're preparing for the CBAP, I'm sure you've heard all, most instructors will tell you, you need to know the BABOK like the back of your hand. You need to read through the BABOK at least 3 times. That's what's recommended by most people, at least 3 times. This is me. The last time I read the BABOK end to end was in December, almost 1 year ago. And here I am with less than 3 weeks to the exam, to the date I had picked in my head. It was clear that I could not read the BABOK from end to end, and so for me, I needed a shortcut. I needed a way to, get to my goal quicker. So I focused on the areas where I felt I was weak in. I did that, did some revision, and then I did the next test. I did the next test, and this is what I scored. I was like, what? I retrogress, if anything. What am I going to do? I went back. At this time, I had started to panic. And that was where my prayer request came. I was praying one morning and I said, God, help me. This is where I am, like, help me. Don't let me have to write this exam twice. I was nervous. Interesting, my husband was also nervous for me, but he has also learned to not, voice out those fears because he could tell that I was nervous. So, being a man of the spirit, our guy just went to be praying. He was just praying. He said, God, help your daughter. Because he didn't know how it was going to happen. Every day I was panicking. Like, even when I sat down to study, I'll be panicking. I'll be like, gosh, I'll tell my children, please excuse me, mommy has an exam. So everybody knew mommy had an exam. I wrote the 3rd mock test and I scored this. And I remember the day I finished that test and I was, checking, I was waiting for my score to come. My daughter was like, so mommy, are you ready for your exam now? I said, well, I don't know. This is what I scored in my test. My daughter said, that's a D. And I'm like, that's a D? Because in her school, 60-something is a D. She's like, yeah, that's a D. That's a D. You need to do better. You need to get about 85, 90. And I'm like, this little girl has given me a challenge. Oh, how am I going to do it? Anyways, at that point, I went back to pray. When I saw that result that night, trust me, I didn't even have the zeal to study again. So first, I acknowledged that there had been some progress, from a 50-something score to a 60-something score. I acknowledged progress. I acknowledged also that, look, I'm close and I'm definitely better from where I started. But then at this time, I had just about 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks. And so I went back to pray. I prayed. I spent the night praying. I didn't study again. I spent the night praying. I prayed. And I was just asking God for mercy. Now, I woke up the next day and I found this girl on YouTube, Oluoma. She had short videos of different aspects of the BABOK. She had exam tips. She had this, she had that. I'm like, okay, where has this girl been since? I didn't see her since. In fact, as I think back, at that time, I didn't even see it as an answer to a prayer, but I was glad that I was seeing her videos. So in between work, in between, anything I was doing, I had my earphones plugged and I was always listening to those, short clips. So towards the end of that week, I saw a video she did about, she was just giving tips as usual. And then she talked about finding a study group. So I went on YouTube and I searched for study group. And IIBA Ireland chapter, their study group popped up. They had done these live sessions where they were going through questions by knowledge area. I think they had done about a year ago or so. And that became my resource. So I went through, I would sit down with them. I particularly liked those videos because they would, they were not just telling me the right answer and the wrong answer. They were telling me why this was wrong and why this was right. I started to see things differently from their videos, quite honestly. I feel like that was the turning point for me. And trust me, I had 1 week from that day. After I prayed, right, I woke up the next day and I said, you know what, I'm going to fix my exam dates. I looked at the calendar. I said middle of November. I had some clients who were waiting for me. I had told people I can't take on any new clients until this day. I had blocked my calendar. Nobody could book anything, So I needed, of course, end of year was coming. I needed more money. My income goals had not been met, so I needed to make it. So anyways, I was like, by the middle of November, I need to have written this exam. So I looked and I'm like, realistically, I had been targeting the 14th of November or 15th of November, but I'm like, you know what? Let's make it 21st, Friday. So I took 2 days off. I took Thursday and Friday, Thursday 20th and Friday 21st, because I was going to use 20th to do my final revision and then 21st go for the exam. So I did that, and then I started to pay attention to the IIBA Ireland chapter videos. I'm going to put a link in the description. And that continued every day, one video, every day, one video. Truth is, I did not go through all of their videos because I did not have enough time. Once again, I focused on the areas where I needed the most help, where I thought my skills were the least in. And then when I finished those ones, I then started doing others. In the course of that, 3 days before the exam, on Tuesday, I did another YouTube search randomly. And I was looking so there was something I hadn't yet gotten, calculations, and I'm thinking, come on. And so I did another YouTube search and I found a video I think it was from Adaptive, just one video. And I watched that video. That video changed my life. It changed everything. So I would say in less than 2 weeks, I found resources that changed the entire, the entire thing for me, positioned me for success. But even at that, I was still a bit nervous. Anyways, I went in for the exam and you know how it is. I finished. I was waiting for the screen. In fact, I did like this, waiting for it. And then I picked and I saw congratulations. I just, gosh. That's how I sat at my desk, and I was just like, I was wondering if they were watching me on the CCTV. At that point, I couldn't care less. I was just like, God, thank you. God, thank you. So I finished that exam. I mean, I know when I told one of my friends who I told said, oh, Wemi, you need to do a vlog. And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe not. But I decided I was going to do a vlog when on the 28th of November, so this was 21st of November. On the 28th of November, when I was praying, once again, with the Bible app, right? They have the feature where you can record your prayers, and every time you pray, they'll just bring up 3 random prayers, from what you had put in. And usually I'll just go through those 3 prayers again. If there's been an update, you can update it. If it's been answered, you can answer it. You can mark it as answered, And then, if you have more time, so like there are days when I have more time, I will do an extra 3 prayers, Anyways, from the 21st to the 28th, those prayers hadn't come up. I mean, that particular prayer hadn't come up. So that's why it was on the 28th that I was able to mark it as answered, because on the 28th, when I was praying, I saw that, I had put in that prayer. It's interesting. Sometimes you pray about things and you forget that you prayed about them. So when I saw it, I screamed. I was like, what? So I was this nervous. I remember praying about it, but I didn't remember that I had put it in the Bible app. So when I just marked it as answered, I was so excited, and it was on that day that I decided that I was going to do this video. It's taken me some time to do it, but I mean, it's finally here. So where am I going? Sometimes you have all the experience, sometimes you're confident, sometimes you're not, sometimes everything looks green, some other times it is yellow, other times it is red. Whatever the situation, God is our source, God is our wisdom, God is our foundation, and He's the only one who can perfect those desires and those dreams we have in our hearts. And so I'm encouraging you to always, always take everything to God in prayer. So that's how I, passed my CBAP. I went from nervous, from scared, to better prepared, confident, and of course, successful. So now I'm certified. I have the CBAP designation, which I had desired. I am glad to have ticked that off my list for 2025. And I hope that this video would help somebody today. If you're someone who has lots of experience and, or you've just not read something for a long time, the ways to, achieve a goal faster. Once you start with the current state assessment, you see where you are, identify gaps, focus on those areas, pray so that if you do not have the right resources, God will direct you to the right resources, and then go and smash that goal. Thank you so much for watching this, and I wish you the best in all your endeavors. Happy 2026 in advance.